How do we successfully address business and organisational issues through research? Now, Cranfield has given considerable thought to this area and we've had a lot of success. Now, to explore this issue is Professor David Denyer. Now, David, sounds an obvious question, but how do we match up the worlds of research and business and organisations?
Yeah, Steve, I think the first thing that we need to do is to understand the reasons why management research doesn't have the impact that we perhaps think it should have on organisations and society more broadly. I think the first challenge that we need to overcome is that a lot of business and management research doesn't address business and management issues as seen by practitioners themselves. A lot of business and management research addresses knowledge problems that are kind of theoretical issues that are derived from previous research, and then it can become an issue of academics talking to themselves. There are also issues around the publications process that academics are measured on, and the way in which they are rewarded within their own institutions around publications in top journals, which aren't largely read by practitioners, and the time delay that it actually takes for an academic to publish a piece of research in one of those top journals. It could be 18 months, 2 years to actually, from doing the piece of research to actually seeing it in print, means that actually the world of business may well have moved on. So for me, it's not so much an issue of taking management research, but actually thinking, is there a different way of doing business and management research, where it's not a process of doing a piece of research, then transforming it for a different audience, and then a process of dissemination. So that kind of production, transformation, dissemination model, to one where we actually engage with practitioners throughout the process. So in the process of deriving the research question in the first place, it should be linked to a real world business question. I think that's what we do particularly well at Cranfield. Not only is it in the process of deriving that research question, but a process of engagement with practice throughout the whole research process. So it's much more collaborative, it's much more knowledge co-production, it's much more of an iterative process, and that interplay between the theory side, the academic side, and the practice side throughout. So at all times, there's a concern for both rigour and relevance. We often see these two things as being completely incommensurate. You can't have something that's both rigorous and relevant. But for me, actually, these two things go hand in hand. If we start with a real-world business issue, we address it in a very rigorous way, that should have relevance for the academic community and for the business community.
So give me some examples then. You've worked this through in practice, so tell me one of them.
Okay, well, I'll give you the example of my work, which is obviously the one that I know the best. So my work starts with a real-world business issue, the work that I've been working on, which has been funded by the Economic and Social Research Council and the Advanced Institute for Management, has been on how do organisations better respond to extreme events. So if you take an iconic example, you've got something like the Victoria Columbier death in year 2000, and then Lord Laming is asked to do an investigation, and a set of recommendations come out from that report several years later. All organisations are supposed to respond better to that event, to learn from that event. Yet we see that that's not always the case. And if you then look the follow-on from that with the Baby P incident, exactly the same London Borough of Haringey, same social services department, but the organisation hasn't learnt from that event. And if you go back and look at other events, we've got NASA, another iconic example, with Challenger and then Columbia, more recently BP with Texas City, and then followed with Deepwater Horizon. And actually there are a lot of lessons that could be learnt from the initial event which aren't actually implemented in practice. So this is a real challenging question. It's relevant for practice because it's a real practical issue. Damage is being, or harm is being done to people, property and the environment. Lives are being lost because of the inability of organisations to learn. But it's also an issue that is challenging within the academic community, because if you look at the literature on change management, previous research, it suggests there are steps to change. You know, we start with an impetus for change, kind of a burning platform for change, and the existing change management models don't actually explain why change is not occurring in this context. So here we've got a problem that has practical relevance, but also has an interest for the academic community, can make an academic contribution. So therefore, for me, makes a very interesting topic for further research. The next step from going from that researchable question, is to engage organisations in the research. So I've been working with the nuclear industry up at Sellafield, with fire and rescue crews, the Bedfordshire and Luton Combined Fire Service, 6 hospital trusts, with oil and gas industry, with Centrica Storage, and in high security mental health with the top team at Broadmoor Hospital, and engaging with them throughout the process. So I've been looking at events that have occurred in organisations, been working with them to better understand the causes of those events, better understand how the organisation can derive a change agenda from that, and then the process of change implementation throughout the process. And engaging them not only in this sort of passive recipient of a piece of research, but actually most of the really good ideas that come out of the research are from the practitioners themselves, because they understand the context, they're intellectual people, they've been dealing with these issues, and actually that interplay between, I think with an academic having more of a stood back view, maybe sort of being able to derive some concepts from literature to help explain what's going on, but for the practitioner has the local knowledge and the expertise. And as I say, they've been tackling these issues for a long time, have derived a lot of experience and expertise about those issues. If you can marry those two things together, you've got something really quite powerful.
Thank you very much, David.
Okay, thank you.